what intrigued you to begin this quest for collaborations between artists and scientists? Where did this start from?
I think it actually never finished. It was since my childhood, science and arts were not separate. And I think they were artificially separated by adults. So I think by keeping an inner child, we can do anything we like. Just to keep having fun and be curious. Because sometimes science alone is not a lot of fun, because we struggle to find one particular proof or one particular, and then if it doesn't work for years, you get quite frustrated. But arts allows you to look at things at a lighter angle, where senses are more important than the logical and mathematical proof. And therefore, by using the language of the soul, the dance, the singing, the arts and crafts, being with people who do not use reasoning, to communicate things, but mostly visual information or plastic or movements or sounds. I think it adds to the scientific picture, because only sitting in the classroom or having graphs, going deeper, it's not. I think it's not enough. And to fill your heart with joy, you also need a party. So for me, arts is more like a celebratory thing or a carnival, that you can celebrate science with friends who do not use algorithms or equations, to prove things. So I think that it is natural that scientists collaborate with artists. For arts, it's a great source of inspiration, because the data, we have produced a lot of data, and here in this university in Far East, in Vladivostok, they have started the course called Digital Arts. So they can use artistic methods of interpretation for any data that you have.
It kind of brings me to the two videos that you sent me. One was visualizing thoughts, and the other was basically a preview of the Well-Tempered Brain project. So how do you kind of go about this? Like to say that, is it basically neural signals that you are kind of portraying in an audiovisual way? Like it like sounded like a very interesting project, in collaboration with neuroscientists and musicians on the other end. So if you could tell us a little about your experiences.
Yeah, I think because a lot of arts now is using computing as a method of delivering the visual information or the sound information or even the sculpture. The 3D printers that artists use, they have digital data in them, and then the digits you can get them from science. You can take the neural signal of one cell in one channel of, for example, a music program. Like the musicians, they also use programs that have these channels. Like Ableton, for example. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what you put them. If you put them neural signals, they will play neural signals. And then this will create, you nominate them different instruments, and then you can have an orchestra from neurons. So that kind of thing. But also you can use it for visual, you can use them as different colors. I think it's a nice, different way of applying the same things. And even, I think that it's not impossible that even scientists can look at their results under a different light, because it is also, it can be like nearly scientific, the method of interpretation. It's just a different plot, that you use. It's just sound, that we don't use normally. But why not, right? If we cannot, sometimes we can perceive very sophisticated graphs, and if some dimension can be put in sound, I think that could add to the understanding of this data. So I think that scientists can also take inspiration from arts. Also, for example, we did the chromosomes interpretation with people, like modern ballet, and because it's very difficult to know what's going on there. But chromosomes are 3D objects, and if you play it as a dance, you can see how they could possibly relate to each other. What can they physically do, and maybe understand what's the 3D structure of the cell.
When you're working at the science and arts interface, usage of metaphysical and mythological analogies come up sometimes, like to explain science. So, do you think that it helps in popularizing science, or does it cause a setback to scientific temper, like to the development of scientific?
I think that science also roots in the physics itself. It originally it was not different from magic, from alchemy, and from philosophy, and then so it is quite plausible to use the metaphysical clues in it, and I think that adds to the story rather than detracts from it.
I kind of think that it's because that is something that people easily relate to, and it's kind of easier to perhaps explain a concept which they don't relate to using such an analogy, I'm guessing.
Yes, I think that, for example, Indian gods could be a great metaphor for things that happen in the cell, because you have gods for every reason, right? They can do anything, so you can explain things very well. And also, for example, the metaphysical characteristics like soul or karma, I think they have a lot of place in science as well. For example, that epigenetics has a lot in common with karma, because it is that what you put in the cell affects the behavior of it, and it is quite a strict molecular understanding, despite you don't understand it completely, because it's very complex.
So, would you say that the concept of karma or the concept of soul, like, would you call it scientific, like, or is it just an analogy for a scientific concept?
I think that you can say that there is a scientific part in it. We don't understand it completely in the language of science, but we don't understand epigenetics completely as well. So I think that in this sense they are quite close together, and I think that the more you understand how molecules relate to itself, you understand better what karma is on molecular level. How things relate to each other, and how epigenetics can be molecular karma. For in some small sense. You don't necessarily you cannot relate this to the a lot or everything in sociology, like how it relates to the fate of the nation, but I don't understand it anyway. I understand how what you put in yourself, like what type of food you eat, and how molecules relate to the molecules inside the cell, how that affects the tissues and the body, and how how things can go wrong, how cancer can develop because of systematic damage, that some people put inside themselves with the wrong molecules. And even humans, like humankind, I think that has a strong analogy to malignant disease in the way it behaves in the planet, that it starts to use the artificial places to live, artificial sources of energy like oil, and then it becomes like a super monkey. But in the end, it destroys the planet, and it is doomed. Its destiny is to die, as well, and destroy the planet. So it is a karma in a very simple scientific sense.